Hello, Foothill Kids. Last week we talked about King Saul and David. 1 Samuel 24 talks about how the disobedient King Saul was sinking deeper into evil insanity. Years of David's life and the lives of his men were consumed or spent running from the king whom God had deserted. They lived in desperate conditions and could be betrayed at any moment. Someone could have told where David and his men were. This was the life that David chose. God gave him the opportunity to change things by putting Saul's life in his hands on 2 occasions. But David chose mercy over self-preservation. That had to have been frustrating to his followers. One day, Saul heard David was in the wilderness of En-Gedi. So Saul gathered 3,000 men to go to kill David. During Saul's search for David, he went into a cave, the very same cave that David and his men were hiding in. And when David's men saw that Saul was unaware that they were hiding in the cave, they saw Saul was unable to defend himself. And his men said, "This is your chance. This is God telling you that he will give you your enemy." So David went quietly and cut off a piece of Saul's robe. David thought it was not right for him to take Saul's life, no matter what hardship and difficulty Saul had caused him. It was not right for him to hurt the one God had placed over Israel. So David told his men to back off. He didn't let them kill Saul. They waited till after Saul had left the cave. And then David ran out and shouted after Saul, "My king, why do you listen to people who say, 'I am trying to harm you'?" He said, "Look, I have a piece of your robe. I cut it off, but I didn't kill you. This proves I am not trying to harm you. And I have not sinned against you, even though you have been hunting me." David promised that he would never harm Saul. David said God would be the one to protect David and rescue him from Saul's power. And Saul said, "Is that you, David?" And he began to cry. Saul said, "You are a better man than I. You have been amazingly kind to me today. When God put me in a place where you could have killed me, you didn't do it. Who else would have done this? And now I realize you are surely going to be the king, and the kingdom of Israel will flourish under your rule. Promise me that when that happens, you won't kill my family." So David promised that he would not hurt Saul's family, and they left each other in peace. Now Saul continued to make difficulties in David's life, but David kept his promise. And in time, David did become king of Israel. David was dearly loved by God, and Israel did flourish under his rule. David did everything that God wanted him to do. David was a man after God's own heart. Is this merciful behavior of David's giving us a glimpse of God's merciful attitude toward all of mankind? David was a mighty warrior, a general who could lead his men with such fury that his enemies would simply melt away in fear. Instead of killing Saul or allowing his men to, throughout the Old and New Testaments, mercy is highly treasured by God. It is a characteristic of God himself. We all have received God's mercy. it can be difficult for us to pass it on to others. It's all too easy to slam shut the doors of mercy. You might want to ask David, what good is Saul doing for Israel? He's certainly not leading the people toward God. He is insane and acting all crazy. David could have had his men take Saul out so that he could start leading the people like God had planned, but instead he chose mercy. David wasn't a perfect person, but a person whose heart desired what God desired, and that is how we should be, or is said about us. Have a nice day.